Oh, you disgust me. Oh, my God.
I hope you feel better after that.
Why do you have to share with us, in the most crude and obnoxious way, your failures from last night? Yet, Friday night, after a long, arduous work week, you had to go out, tie one on, blow off some steam.
Or 2 or 3.
Or 10, or 12. Get rejected by every halfway decent looking woman in the bar. And probably a couple of fatties as well. And then you
got too drunk.
And then you come crawling to us like you do every Saturday morning. And you say, Uncle Dave, Uncle Kev, please help me feel better about life. Please help me feel better about myself. Help me. Let's fry up the eggs. Let's fry up the bacon.
Get the coffee.
And
Pop the aspirin. And yes, we're here for you again and again and again.
It is your Saturday morning hangover cure. Sports Frenzy 2.0, the weekend edition. With your Uncle Dave, the Conquistador, Dave Heights.
And your Uncle Kev, the Maestro Kevin Crane. It is your favorite politically incorrect pop culture commentary.
Where we'll discuss the best in movies, TV, streaming, and to start off, rock and roll. But we're doing something a little different for you this week.
That's right. It ties in with the streaming. So we've got a fun little long-lost documentary. Heartbreakers Beach Party.
Heartbreakers Beach Party.
Heartbreakers Beach Party.
Which I believe only aired once in the mid-'80s on MTV late at night.
Yes, it was...
never to be seen again.
Long-lost footage from Cameron Crowe.
Yes, this was his first project where he was actually in charge of everything going on in front of and behind the cameras.
Yep, normally at that time he was just doing interviews.
Yeah, he was just coming off his stint as I believe, a Rolling Stone writer.
Yes.
And of course he would turn out to be a fairly successful film director later on in life. So now we get, I would say it's pieced together. I would say the original hour that aired on MTV, and then another half an hour
of like bonus found stuff.
Yeah, bonus scenes, bonus interviews, commentary with the older Cameron Crowe talking to Tom Petty's daughter.
Yes, which I thought was very cool.
Yep. So you have to take it for what it is. It's not a linear discussion per se. Maybe the first hour is kind of, sort of. The big takeaway I had from this is that Tom Petty, I am not, God knows, I am not a guy who condones pot smoking.
Yeah.
I can't stand it. I do think it's a gateway drug, whether other people want to poo-poo that. And I know later on in life, Tom Petty fell into some really bad stuff. And again, I think the pot smoking led into
the other things.
Yes, which I have read here recently. Mike Campbell, on release of this documentary, has come out and said, I couldn't do anything to stop what Tom was doing. You know, he was having pain issues. I believe he'd had some kind of a hip surgery or hip issue, but there was heroin involved and some nasty, nasty stuff.
Yeah, it was not good.
But given all that, and you hear about all this stuff, and Last Dance with Mary Jane, which of course is not covered here because this documentary ends right about the time of Long After Dark.
Yep, this is the 81-82 frame, so
we get about the first 5 albums from Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, that era.
Yeah, with a really goofy, nutty Cameron Crowe.
Yep.
And
But I guess what I was getting at was a clear Tom Petty.
yes,
He sounds very clear, very coherent, as opposed to
later on where
yeah,
he's just kind of
zoned out,
there.
zonked out.
Yeah.
But it's a nice time. Somebody else called it a time capsule when I was reading about this, and I think that's
That sums it up
appropriate,
very well.
a very appropriate description of this. It's a time capsule for where rock and roll was in the early 80s when all these other music genres were fighting for space on MTV, and Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers were staying true to form and trying to just stay the course.
Yeah, they knew who they were and playing around a little bit, but staying within what they did well.
Yep.
So, I don't know, it was just entertaining. It was nice to see that early Tom Petty. And it reiterates how greedy everybody was back in the day trying to take advantage of the artists.
And
There was a great scene where they got him to go to a college campus for a question and answer. And somebody asked him, how do you deal with, the music industry trying to take advantage of you? And Tom's response was, well, the record producers tried on our last album to charge $9.98 for it,
yep.
getting an extra dollar out of the fans. And that's something I could not stand by, for them gouging you guys. And I fought them on that and said, no, it's going to stay at the $8.98. And a lot of others were trying to do the same. And he said, and I'm proud to have fought to keep the prices stable.
Yep, and that was on Hard Promises.
Yes.
That was the album. Yeah, and they did talk a lot about his issues with MCA.
Yeah, where he had to file for bankruptcy
To try to keep
his work
yeah.
under his own name.
Yep.
And it was just
And what was
crazy.
it? Damn the Torpedoes. They had to basically fight for months and months and months. He wouldn't release it because of this fight.
Yeah.
And then they finally settled and finally were able to release Damn the Torpedoes, which ended up being his breakthrough album with the Heartbreakers. So, I mean, those of us who know music and grew up in that era have heard these stories before. But for those who haven't,
You get pissed at Ticketmaster and Live Nation now for their $27 fees. It was the tip of the iceberg back in the day. They've always been greedy, trying to take advantage
yeah,
of the fans and the artists.
yep. And Tom Petty was one of the first ones out there to fight the good fight.
Yes.
And I will always bitch and piss and moan about Don Henley of the Eagles, the greediest bastard in music. And I don't care what Eagles fans think of me for saying that. He was the first one to push the Eagles over the $100
Yep.
threshold. All he cares about is money, money, money. Tom Petty cared about the fans.
He cared about making music.
Yeah, and another very important, insightful part of Heartbreakers Beach Party is where he talks about rock and roll stars who set up a different persona.
Yes.
Where they talk about
I'm this way on stage, or I'm this
Right.
way doing interviews, and they lose themselves.
and he's like, that's not who I am. I am who you see no matter where you see me. On stage, here at home, wherever it might be.
Very appreciative of what you got to hear from him,
Yep.
how he opened up. And as I said, as goofy as Crow could be, he was a very good interviewer, and he really had a nice rapport with Tom that came across. And you saw the part where Tom Petty encouraged Cameron Crowe to be a director.
Yep. Yep. Very, very fun. I won't say it's groundbreaking, but again, for what it is, a time capsule of the early 80s rock and roll era, with MTV starting to exert its influence.
Yep.
And Tom Petty fighting to stay a true blue rock and roll band with the Heartbreakers.
Yeah.
I'll give it a three frenzies.
Yeah. That's what it deserves.
It's worth recommending to all you kids out there. It is now streaming on Paramount Plus.
Yep. It's an enjoyable watch.
Yep. Paramount Plus has a lot of good music stuff, by the way. So delve into what they've got. If you don't care for Taylor Sheridan, I don't know what to tell you, because
he pretty much runs Paramount
Yeah.
Plus and CBS.
But
right now.
other than Taylor Sheridan shows and some good rock and roll stuff, that's what you get on Paramount Plus. So yeah, check out this lost little nugget from the early 80s.
Yep, we highly recommend it.
Heartbreakers Beach Party. Now, before we move on to our TV and streaming movies and news, couple little interesting music tidbits that I thought I would run by Dave, that he would find interesting, as well as all of you out there. Of course, Dave and I, along with Mrs. C, last year went to see one of the final shows ever for REO Speedwagon.
Yes.
Even though
in its past incarnation.
Yes. Even though it's up for debate, what now is going to constitute REO Speedwagon going forward. Kevin Cronin, of course, is going out on tour, playing nothing but REO Speedwagon songs, but they're not REO Speedwagon. But now news comes out that coming up this summer in Champaign, Illinois, 6 surviving members of REO Speedwagon, not including Kevin Cronin, will be getting back together for a one-time only concert benefiting cancer research.
Very interesting.
But I find this very interesting in that the 2 members of the classic lineup, the high infidelity lineup of REO Speedwagon, outside of Bruce Hall, because the whole Bruce Hall Kevin Cronin fight that's been going on now for a year or two. But Neil Dowdy, the keyboard player, retired, and he was a deciding vote to say Kevin Cronin cannot use the name REO Speedwagon anymore. Now they've brought in drummer Alan Gratzer, who has been persona non grata, just hasn't been anywhere in this for a while. He's coming in to do this, along with guys that they had in the band back in the 70s.
Wow.
So this is like a really big feel-good moment for old school REO fans.
And a big F.U. to Cronin.
Yeah. And I've always said that. Kevin Cronin has always struck me as he cares about nobody but himself.
Yes. That definitely comes across.
He thinks he is REO Speedwagon. And I'm telling you, that's bullshit. They'll be paying tribute at this concert to the late Gary Richrath. Now, hopefully they get somebody who can sing lead vocals on these songs. But I'm kind of happy about this.
Yes, I know. It kind of makes you feel good that there is a little comeuppance coming his way.
Well, when you have 5 members of the classic lineup, one is dead, and the other 3 are now getting back together, and the big egomaniac frontman is out on his own now, and he can't use the REO Speedwagon name anymore. Yeah. There is a little bit of a twinge of joy.
Yes.
Now
we relish in these moments.
Now the other big news of the week in the music world.
John Bon Jovi's giving refunds for the Indianapolis show?
Oh no, he's talking about going back out on tour again.
Loser! I want my fucking money, John.
They're reissuing, by the way, the last album. He re-recorded it with duets now.
Oh,
and he's gonna,
God.
He's going to try to gouge the fans again for more money.
For the same old songs. Yeah.
Yeah.
Typical asshat move.
Except it's duets now.
Bullshit.
Forever with duets.
Nobody cares. Well, I'm sure there are some who do. We don't. Won't get fooled again.
This story comes from, believe it or not, the Dutch press. And I guess when you think about it, this would make sense, considering the ancestry of the Van Halens. Alex Van Halen supposedly let it leak that he is working on the archives, along with one Steve Lukather of Toto.
Really? Huh.
Lukather has been a close friend of the Van Halens for a long time. And Lukather was approached on a couple different occasions here recently to dispel, is this just BS? He says, if Alex said it happened, then I guess it's happening. So the one thing he did say is never going to happen is, we're not putting together a new Van Halen album with me playing guitar. He says, I would never, ever, ever disparage the name of Eddie Van Halen by doing that. But he did not deny that he and Alex are working on the archives and that they are looking at all these snippets of songs that Alex and Eddie put together. He did not deny it.
That's very cool.
He basically said, well, if Alex said it, then it must be true. No mention of Wolfgang, by the way. No mention. But he's got his own thing going on.
But Wolfie's doing his own thing.
Yeah.
And he's not going to step on his uncle's toes. Now, if Alex reaches out, I'm sure he'll be there.
Because, that was the next series of questions was, okay, you guys find these snippets, these solos, these guitar parts, these drum parts, you put them together. Who's singing? Who's playing bass? I gotta believe
big questions.
I gotta believe they bring Dave and Wolfie in. They're not going back to Sammy.
Oh no.
I think Sammy's burned those
Sammy's
bridges.
persona non
we
grata.
We already know.
Alex.
Yeah, we already know Alex does not. He can read into it. Read the tea leaves. Read between the lines. He does not like Sammy.
Read the acknowledgments in Brothers. Sammy is not mentioned at all.
Yeah. So, I think that he'd bring back Dave and then he'd get Wolfie in to play bass. So, basically, we're looking at a different kind of Truth, that lineup, with Lukather overseeing everything and producing it. But just some fun news for you.
Intriguing things.
Yes,
and we know Wolfie can play everything.
Yeah, who's to say Wolfie couldn't play guitar?
Exactly.
Or at least enhance what's they've got.
There.
Here's the tricky thing. We've had this going on for the last couple of years, this debate about AI. Would you dare take snippets of Eddie playing guitar and
let an
flesh
AI
them out, duplicate them, let AI
fill it in?
Yeah. Or would you rather have Wolfie fill in the parts?
You know my thought on that.
Yeah.
Let Wolfie run.
Yeah. It's still Van Halen.
Yep. Absolutely. Keep it back with the family.
Yep. So great news in terms of the archives finally, maybe, being opened up and being worked on.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move on to TV and streaming. Dave and I promised last week we're playing catch up on this great series that debuted a couple years ago on AMC. And I have got some fun little stories here to go along with this. But Dave and I, of course, read a lot when it comes to modern mysteries, thrillers, detective series.
Yes.
I will admit, I have never read any of the Tony Hillerman books.
I read one years and years and years and years ago.
But
it's
we
not
know from,
enough for me to be able to speak on it.
But we know from reputation that Tony Hillerman's Leap Horn Chi novels are legendary.
Yes.
Going all the way back to, I believe, the early 70s when they debuted. I'm ballparking here. I think that's right. So now AMC here in the last couple of years started up a new series based on those novels called Dark Winds. Now, season 3 just started recently on AMC. Dave and I are playing catch up on this.
Yep.
We both did finish season 1 here recently, which I believe is based on the 3rd book, The Whispering Woman.
I think so, yeah.
And now, a little aside here, I did my research because it's been driving me crazy. I've told you that I, years and years and years ago, watched. They had 3 PBS movies based on 3 of these books. They had Skinwalkers. They had Coyote Waits. And then, the third, I'm zoning on the third one. I want to say A Thief of Time, but I don't think that's right. But PBS did have 3 movies based on these books.
Yeah.
With Wes Studi and Adam Beach playing Leap Horn and Chi. By the way, I ordered Skinwalkers today.
Nice.
There was also, and I can't find this anywhere. There was also a movie called The Dark Wind, Leap Horn and Chi, featuring Fred Ward and Lou Diamond Phillips. Lou Diamond Phillips played Jim Chi.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I was
Now
digging...
that you mention it, I vaguely remember that one.
Right. And so obviously that whole Dark Winds
Yep.
comes into play here. So like Reacher, which we'll talk about in a minute, they're basing every season
On a book.
So season 1, I enjoyed very, very much.
It's
now,
a
of course,
nice setup and introduction to the characters.
Right. Lately, Hillerman's, I believe it's his daughter, who has taken over, Anne Hillerman, has taken over the books since he's passed.
Yeah.
And she is focusing more on Manuelito. So it's now Leap Horn, Chi, and Manuelito, the female character who we get introduced to as well in Dark Winds.
Yeah.
I love the casting. I love the actors who they've got playing the main characters. You can tell it's low budget.
Oh, yeah.
There are a couple moments with really bad special effects. And we're not talking about like car chases or big explosions, but even the smoke coming out of a cave looks fake.
Yeah. There are things where you can tell they did not have the money to put into this the way it should have been.
Right. But again, this is more about the actors. And this is more...
it's a fantastic cast.
Yes. I mentioned when I talked to you last week, when I said I'd be ready for the review, I said I had a couple things that were bothering me a little tiny bit about. Number one is the low budget, and occasionally how that turns up. And the other thing is, I got a little tired of the mysticism part of the storyline. I know that's part of the Indian culture, the Native American. What am I supposed to say now? Indigenous culture, Native American culture, Indian culture, whatever. I did not like the fact that you had this witchy woman who was able to basically tell Manuelita to go to sleep whenever she wanted. I thought that was a little bit much.
Within the culture and within the storyline, you gotta go with it.
No, I don't have to go with that. I don't have to go with that. No, there is no witchy woman who comes in and waves her hands around.
How do you know?
Oh, stop it! Stop it! You might call me a hypocrite because I know we get some of the Cajun stuff with Dave Robichaux, and there's a little bit of the mysticism in that.
Exactly.
But no, stop it.
Just enjoy it. Stop nitpicking.
We get a jailbreak because the witchy woman comes in and waves her hands and puts the deputy to sleep. Come on, stop it. That's too much for me. Way too much for me.
Whatever. I just went with it.
That being said, I still enjoyed it, and I will obviously still keep watching. Very enjoyable series, very enjoyable characters. So
yeah, they do some nice character development.
I will give this a solid 3 frenzies.
Yep, that's what it deserves.
Yeah, even though, ooh, witchy woman. And what happened to her, by the way, in the show? Did they ever tell you what happened to her? The witchy woman? I don't think they ever followed through on that. We kind of saw the fate of her accomplices, but did we ever see what actually happened to the witchy woman?
Yeah, didn't she burn up in the house?
Okay,
yeah, because after that happened, then the store owner's wife got over her spider bite.
Okay. Which was, again, another, come on. Really? Now she can control...
Mind over matter.
The insect world. Anyway, in a couple weeks, we'll review Season 2 of Dark Winds.
Yep. Season 2 starts off with a bang.
Yep. So, I don't want to spoil things for people, but I did see how the whole dynamic works out between Chi and Manuelita. So, anyway. And maybe I will end up going back once I get my DVD in the mail and watching Skinwalkers and compare and contrast.
There you go.
Lee Porn and
movie
Chi from the past
series.
and Lee Porn and Chi in the present day. And I would still love to watch this Lou Diamond Phillips Fred Ward thing. Oh my God, the PC police. Fred Ward is playing an Indian? Oh my God. How dare you? How dare you?
Just let it go.
Fred Ward's awesome. Leave him alone. So we both recommend Dark Winds, kids.
Absolutely.
And you can watch Season 1, Season 2 on Netflix.
Yep.
Season 3 again airing right now on AMC. Of course, we're caught up on Reacher. Episode 6 of Season 3. As you're listening to this, Episode 7 is out there.
Yes. So we will be watching. As you're listening to this, I will be watching it. It's Saturday morning viewing with the family.
Yeah, if it wasn't for March Madness, I'd probably be watching it tomorrow morning as we record here late Wednesday night, the 19th. I would be watching it Thursday night. But with the basketball, I'll fit it in. I'll fit it in.
There you go.
Reacha! Oh, Reacha! You snuck a peek.
Damn it.
You snuck a peek.
I'm not going to do this.
I'm not going to fucking... I mean, another guy I work with. Reacha. Oh, my God.
Yes,
it's great. It is what it is.
We're
Deal with
setting
it.
up for a truly epic, violent end.
Yep. And I'm still... It's kind of sad. I am almost looking forward to, as much as the end of how they take this with the end of Persuader, I want to know what season 4 is going to be.
I know. Dying to know. Where are they going?
My Kindle daily deals this morning, 61 hours.
Foreshadowing?
I know. I was like, is this an omen? What is this?
We could only hope.
I was almost tempted to get it just so I have backup to my paperback version.
I am ready to reread 61 Hours in anticipation.
Yep.
Or even not. That was just such a phenomenal story.
Yeah. Yep, by far the best. And I am shocked because you and I agree, your son agrees. It's amazing to me that there's other people out there who won't even put it in their top 10.
That blows me away.
Yeah. That was the one
They're
that
idiots.
sucked me in to the series. But hopefully Amazon will have the balls. You know, we've talked about the rumors where they said they might revisit the stories from the Tom Cruise movies. There might be a new story.
You could take one of the short stories.
So, we will see. We will see. But in a couple weeks, of course, we will have our full review of Season 3 of Reacher. I did not watch Tracker this week. I just... I needed a week off.
All I will say is... Damn.
And now I don't know. I didn't look for sure to see if my DVR's set for Sunday. But they might actually have a new episode Sunday because they might be showing the tournament on TNT or True TV.
Oh, yeah.
So they might not take the break that I thought they were going to for a couple weeks.
Potential is
That's
there.
kind of why I held off, because I wanted to save at least one episode to watch here. But maybe I'm wrong.
We'll find out.
Happens 45,000 times a day for me, but I did watch The White Lotus. Why did I watch The White Lotus? Because of spoilers. Because for some reason, people love
it airs and it's spoiled an hour after it airs.
Yes.
Because people are stupid and they suck.
So season 3, episode 5, I had to watch it because I was worried they were going to spoil even more for me than they already did. Just, again, 2 hours after it aired. You know, oh, did you see this? Oh my God, what'd you think of this? So I will not spoil. I will not spoil! But in very vague terms, the 2 big spoilers from this past Sunday's White Lotus. Number 1, cameo. And I will say a cameo from an Academy Award winning actor that reminds me of Christopher Walken's cameo in Pulp Fiction. And that's all I will say. That's all I will say. Because, of course, I know Dave is planning on catching up on The White Lotus here in a couple months. The other one, where they're making a big deal about this one scene. Oh my God, scandalous. Oh, no.
Idiots.
Here's the thing. Alcohol was involved. So anytime alcohol is involved,
shit happens.
Shit happens. Not scandalous. They weren't sober. What happened? You take in context the scene, the moment, making way too big of a deal. The cameo, much more disturbing. Much more disturbing than this scandalous scene at the end of episode 5. But again, it's a bunch of people sleeping together, having sex, all nasty, disgusting people for the most part. Self-absorbed, self-centered.
There you go. Oh, the 1%ers.
There you go. Well, they'd have to be to afford a week at the White Lotus.
There you go.
It's pretty fucking expensive. And even the nice people are pretty much stupid and gullible and get what they deserve. All right, so let's move on to movie news and TV and streaming news. Of course, I only write down the stuff that will entertain Dave, because otherwise, what's the point? If it entertains Dave, it'll entertain you kids out there.
No pretentious bullshit with us.
All right. I have read one of these books. We were talking about Tony Hillerman, and you said you read one of his books.
Way back in the day.
All right, I have read one of these books, and I was waiting for this because of his deal with Netflix. Harlan Coben. They're finally going to make a series on Netflix out of his Myron Bolitar books.
All right,
Of course,
maybe.
Myron Bolitar is a sports agent who gets sucked into mysteries in his books.
This might be the push to get me to read them. It's always been on the...
Like I said, I read one. It was okay.
That's always been one that, maybe someday if I ever get time. But I've got so many others that I need to get to. More of a priority.
I would say you stick with the other ones. Will I watch the series? I'll give the series.
Yeah. We'll give the series a shot.
I'd like to see who they're going to cast as Myron Bolitar. But the thing is, Coben, even though when they announced this, was talking about how precious the character is to him, then why did you stray off into all these different books and stories? And he had his Mickey Bolitar, I think it's his adopted son or his stepson or whatever.
Expand the universe.
Yeah. I prefer my writers to focus on their main characters with the occasional dalliance.
Yes.
As
a recharge.
Right. This one is specifically for you. John le Carre. They are working on a series based on George Smiley.
Really?
The Legacy of Spies series.
Huh.
Is in the works.
Very intriguing.
Now, you
I've read
right?
some.
Yeah. That's what I thought.
Yeah, I've read some of them, and I remember Smiley's people.
Yep. Season 3 of Tulsa King is now officially already in production.
Yes! Maybe it won't take forever to get.
In terms of stuff coming up on streaming that we might watch and we might not watch. I know one you will not watch, but I probably will...
Get sucked in?
Yes, because I am a sucker for music. A Complete Unknown with Timothée Chalamet as Bob Dylan will be on Hulu March the 27th.
Can't do it. I don't like Bob Dylan
you don't have
music.
Hulu anyway.
That too.
And then on April the 25th on Max, Baby Girl debuts. And I swear to God, I'm only going to watch it for its storyline and not the intense, wild sex involving Nicole Kidman. I swear I'm not going to watch it for that. I swear I'm not. Because I would never, ever, ever watch a movie.
As he shakes his head, yes.
I don't even know what you're referring to when you mention Skinamax. I don't know what that is. I don't know what Showtime After Hours is. I don't know any of that crap.
Skinamax, Show Tits, HB-Hose.
How dare you imply that when I was a teenager I would stay up at 2 in the morning just so I could sneak into the living room and turn on the cable box. and watch something like that involving Joan Collins in an elevator. How dare you
Morgan
imply that?
Fairchild.
Yes, Morgan Fairchild. Any movie with Emmanuel in the title. How dare you imply that I would watch something so scandalous? Baby Girl on Max, April the 25th.
Coming April 25th.
Yeah. All right, we talked recently about, which I thought would have been great casting. Daniel Craig was in line to play the DC war hero, Sergeant Rock, and he bowed out. Well, we've seen it with Marvel, so why not DC? We know him, we love him as the Penguin, so why wouldn't he play Sergeant Rock? Colin Farrell is in negotiations to play Sergeant Rock after Daniel Craig dropped out.
Why not?
And then...
At least he doesn't have to wear the penguin suit.
Yeah, he did not like that.
No.
No, he's on record saying, I don't have fun with all that makeup time. Sitting in the chair.
Yeah, and then having to prosthetic to have to walk that way. Said it killed him.
Unbelievable, though.
Farrell is a phenomenal actor, period.
And then, dun dun dun, there might be life after all for Coyote versus Acme.
Yes! Breathe life into this.
I don't know how this company is making any money because they're a startup. The movies they've put out have not made any money whatsoever at the box office. Ketchup Entertainment is in negotiations to buy Coyote versus Acme for a 2026 theatrical release. Supposedly going to pony up $50 million. But they get all rights, international rights, streaming rights, everything.
Good.
But finally, we might actually get to see Coyote versus Acme.
This is a brilliant premise.
And I guess they've screened it. You know, they've had test screenings and people loved it.
Then what the hell?
Because the current regime at Warner Brothers are a bunch of idiots. They're the ones that shelved Batgirl.
Yeah, and then cut everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are a bunch of fucking morons.
Yeah, wouldn't go forward with Doom Patrol and Titans. And...
Yeah.
All right, a lot of trailers this week before we get to our movies. Some of them, when we were meeting up before taping, I showed Dave, or he looked at on his tablet, including April the 3rd on Amazon Prime. Kevin Bacon is the bondsman.
This looks like fun.
It looks like Supernatural meets The Evil Dead.
Yeah, that's kind of it.
Yeah.
You get that vibe of even Ghost Rider without the flames.
Yep. But lots of gore.
Lots of demons.
Yep.
Lots of one-liners.
Yep. So that one, kids, I'm putting that on the calendar. That's one to look forward to that we are going to start reviewing beginning April the 3rd, The Bondsman. Now the trailer is out. See, now, I don't know how to approach this with you because I know you love your classic racing movies. You always tell me I need to watch, what was it?
Grand Prix
with James Garner, even though it's like 7 hours long.
It's not quite that bad. It goes by in the blink of an eye.
But now we've got F1 coming out with Brad Pitt.
We'll see.
We have the trailer for Happy Gilmore 2 out.
Yep, the teaser trailer.
And now we have an official release date of July the 25th on that. I could go either way from what I've seen. Could be good.
Could be meh.
Yeah. We have the new trailer for Ballerina coming out this summer.
From the world of John Wick.
And yeah, there is a lot more of the Baba Yaga in this than I expected. So.
Yeah, might not just be a little cameo.
Yep. Of course, Ana de Armas playing the ballerina.
The lovely Ana de Armas.
Yes, and we get our typical actors from the John Wick universe. The late Lance Reddick.
Yep.
Of course, Ian McShane.
Ian McShane is just one of my favorites.
Yep. Yeah, of course, I go all the way back to Deadwood with him.
He also did a BBC mystery series where he was kind of an art thief and got roped into helping the police solve different crimes. I can't think of what it was called, but that was really good.
You know, and when I was talking earlier about the PBS Lee Porn and Chi stuff, I started thinking back to all these series that you can't find anymore, that you can't. Happen Leonard.
Yeah, gone.
The first season you might be able to dig up on DVD, but there were 3 seasons.
Yeah, 3 brilliant seasons.
You can't find them anywhere anymore from what I can see.
Which is a shame, because those started this whole run of having a book over the course of a season.
Yep. Yeah, there's the old Spencer series with Joe Mantegna as Spencer.
Yep.
You can't find anymore. There are a lot of great lost shows out there. Duster, coming on Max, series starting May the 15th. Which looks very intriguing.
An homage to the 70s exploitation films.
Yep.
Looks very good.
Yep. Mobland looks very good.
Mobland looks fun.
Coming to Paramount Plus March the 30th. Starring Tom Hardy, Pierce Brosnan.
Helen Mirren.
Yep. Shepherded by one Guy Ritchie.
So you know it's going to be pretty good.
Then, of course, the trailer for The Life of Chuck. Now, I have to admit, I'm always intrigued if Stephen King's name is attached. Because even though in real life he's an absolute asshole beyond belief, he is creative and his stories do have some merit to them. Even more recent stuff like, Mr. Mercedes. I thought that was a pretty cool miniseries.
Yeah.
3 years. This is supposedly based on a Stephen King short story. The trailer tells you nothing. Nothing. Starring Tom Hiddleston. It doesn't tell you. There's no point to it. Why the fuck do you put a trailer out that doesn't even give you any hint of what the story's about, of what the movie's
Nothing
about?
to suck you in?
No. And could be the most pointless, boring trailer ever. And then, for me, very excited. April the 10th on Netflix. Season 7, Black Mirror. Black Mirror
Finally
is
coming back.
so twisted, so demented. The Twilight Zone, but with technology. It is awesome. Awesome. I cannot wait. And I'll watch 2 episodes and forget about it. That's what literally,
you do.
Literally, you want to talk about ADD when it comes to a particular series? If I were to go back and look at the first 6 seasons of Black Mirror,
You maybe saw a quarter of them.
yeah, but it's here. It's not like I watched a season and a half and then it's like I pick and choose, which is part of the point. They're standalone stories.
Yeah.
So
You pick
in
the
that
ones that
sense,
interest you.
in that sense, I'm not breaking up a linear narrative. But at the same time, I've got to get out and watch all of them.
Well,
I do.
there you go.
And I'm shocked you haven't got in on this.
I saw it and it got away from me.
Yeah.
And every so often, I need to go back and see it, and then I get caught up in other stuff. Because there's so much fucking things out there.
Yeah. That is the thing. With streaming, there is always something out there. And that's why I cannot deal with people who go, "Oh, I got nothing to do with my life. I'm bored." Sign up for Netflix, for the love of God. You'll never be bored again.
Nope, not at all. All right, kids, it's time for movies here on Spotify, Good Pods, Pocket Casts, Apple, Overcast, Castbox, Amazon, Audible, and iHeart Sports Frenzy, baby.
Of course, otherwise known as iHeartRadio. Don't forget to check out the Facebook page, where you will find links to each and every episode of the Weekend Edition, as well as a Sports Edition, which drops every Thursday morning.
Your politically incorrect sports commentary as only we can provide. All right, made one of the rare outings this past Monday night with the family for Novocaine with Jack Quaid and Ray Nicholson. So, wow.
A little bit of family pedigree, famous family.
Yes, famous family names in there. So, and let me tell you, Ray Nicholson, spitting image of his dad at about the same age, and can play that psycho crazy. He's got that smile and the cadence of speech. It was like going back in time. So, very, very good. But, no, Novocaine follows Jack Quaid's character, who's a assistant bank manager who falls for one of the tellers. And who seems to have fallen for him. And then, of course, Ray Nicholson's character leads the bank robbers in, kidnaps the love interest, and Quaid's guy follows in pursuit, trying to rescue her. Why is it Novocaine? Because he can't feel any pain at all. It's ridiculously violent. It's hysterical, the crap that they go through and put each other through. Over the top. It's an enjoyable ride. And the little twist in there that just leads everything in. So I can't give any spoilers. I'm not going to talk about some of the violent acts because I don't want to ruin it. You have to see it. There's some places where, why did they do that? Or others, oh yeah, I saw that piece coming as you're watching. But still, an enjoyable comedic action adventure. Well worth watching. I'll give it it's a week 3, but still worth watching.
Yeah, and that's the thing. If those types of movies, and you and I were talking off mic about how everybody is sad. This last weekend with Novocaine was the worst weekend of the year box office wise. You know, you got Jason Statham coming up with A Working Man, which is going to be another male-oriented action movie. These movies aren't expected, for the most part, to make $200 million.
No.
They make 25 to 30 million. That's what they're expected to do. That's what the studio wants. Because
it's comfort viewing.
These are typically low-budget movies.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have the big Marvel special effects. You don't have the CGI stuff, you know, for the most part.
Yeah. No, they're fun to watch.
And this goes all the way back to
and of course
the pandemic.
Yeah. And of course, this one also takes place at Christmas time.
Which a lot of movies seem to
Everything
be.
wants to pull the Die Hard.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to be the
last
new
week
Die
it was
Hard.
Terrifier 3 was a Christmas movie.
Yeah. So.
Yep. Everybody wants to set their movies right around Christmas. But, I'll watch it when it hits streaming.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It's so worth watching. I mean, like I said, some of this stuff is just so ridiculous and over the top. You have to love it. So. And this is one of those, as it is, believe it or not, my mom loves this stuff at 80. She was laughing through it, and she goes, after it was over, I didn't realize it was going to be like that. That was funny.
Well,
and that's what you
it's
get with
old
Quake.
school.
It is.
You and I always talk about the 80s, and we talk about the golden era of action movies with Stallone and Seagal and Van Damme and Schwarzenegger.
And Gibson.
Yeah. And you got a great action movie pretty much every 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah, it was a constant run.
Right. And now, toxic masculinity. We don't like that anymore. So, it's amazing how they still make these movies and they somehow
still
make
well.
money.
Because they're enjoyable.
And I still think they're underselling Statham in A Working Man because the Beekeeper made $60 million.
Yeah.
Which was a very hefty haul for an action
one of
movie.
These.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're going to get The Beekeeper too.
Yep. So I'm all good with you keep throwing these action flicks out there. Even if it ends up that they make their money on streaming.
So be it.
Yep.
So just keep them coming, people. Keep them coming.
Yep. Now, our mutual review for this week is a movie, but it was on streaming. And this is the new release on Netflix from the Russo brothers. Big budget. I believe it's been delayed for a couple years. But it is The Electric State. And
robots attempts to take over the world and being outlawed.
Yeah, this is a tricky one for me to review. And I know Dave, I can already tell Dave is not a big fan. I will say this. The first 20 minutes, maybe half an hour, I was ready to bail.
I kind of started tuning out.
Yeah.
And it did pick up, but
when Chris Pratt's character comes into play, it picks up.
It does. But even that gets a little too much. That's where you and I are different.
I
think this is geared towards more the younger audience.
It's obvious that the Russo brothers were cherry picking from a lot of different movies.
Yes, big time.
Most notably, The Matrix. This has got a lot of The Matrix
feel to it.
Yeah. So let me address my negatives first before I have positives. And like I said, I love Chris Pratt. I thought
Pratt was brilliant.
The minute he came onto the screen, he jacked the energy level up, which is what it needed. Because until that, Millie Bobby Brown is not a good actress.
No.
I'm sorry.
No, she's
isn't. Not. And again, you got this whole Matrix vibe going. If you'd have told me 5 years ago that I'd be watching a movie where one of the main characters is Mr. Peanut, I would have said,
"Are you
shut
fucking
your mouth.
kidding me?
Shut your mouth." And sure enough, that's kind of a blatant commercial. And I know there's little commercial homage, and sometimes that's necessary to add some realism, some perspective to the story. But why Mr. Peanut? Why did you choose Mr. Peanut? Now, once I got beyond that, I actually kind of enjoyed it. I love the soundtrack, a lot of classic rock.
The soundtrack was really good.
And the greatest scene ever.
The soundtrack is very good, too.
Greatest scene in the Electric State is when you see that car. The woman's walking down the hallway, and, and then she looks out the window, and you hear, breaking the law, breaking the law. And then everybody's holding up the middle fingers. I was like, I'm in now. I'm in now.
That was very good. That was probably my favorite sequence right in there.
Yeah, and then you get the big robot battle. But yeah, great filmmaking. When you see that car in the background coming into play and smashing into the window, that was, oh my God, one of the best scenes I have seen in a long time. That was very well done. And then, yeah, she looks out and the robots, everybody's got the middle finger. And then the scene a little bit earlier where the piano player is playing Every Rose Has Its Thorn. And then they shift to Don't Stop Believin'. See, I'm a sucker for that type of stuff. I'm a sucker for that.
It was all right.
I will give The Electric State, and I know I have read that this is a polarizing movie. Critics hate it.
Well, they hate everything unless it's a pretentious
bullshit. This might just be an instance of where it was the right movie for me at the right time. Again, 25 minutes in, I was ready to bail. It was dull. I thought it was stupid.
It was a bad setup.
But then once it gets going, I enjoyed it. To a point. It's not a classic.
No, it's a one and done.
I will give it the barest of recommendations. So I will give it a strong 2.5 frenzies.
I would go a weak 2.5.
Well, yeah, you
borderline 2.
Yeah.
It didn't hit with me. There were some fun moments, but overall,
Yeah, see, I think that was the thing, was with a really bad start, I thought it redeemed itself fairly well over the last 2/3.
Yeah,
and a lot of it's nostalgia factor, too.
Yeah, there's pieces of that in there, but the soundtrack was good, and then the final...
And some of the robots.
Run.
I like the
baseball robot.
The baseball robot and the postal woman.
Yeah.
You know, they
had some moments.
Yeah.
So
the kid as the robot, he got annoying real quick.
Yeah, I was.
But again, that was part more of the beginning.
Yeah.
Than the end. Yeah. And the poor hair cutting robot.
Edward Scissorhands.
Yeah. I let her cut my hair. I felt bad for her. And then the whole food thing. Yeah, we don't have any hamburgers. We don't have any cheese. We got Twinkies with beans. See, I thought that was kind of fun stuff. See, that kind of stuff lended some character, some charm to the movie for me.
Oh, there you go.
And the fact that it was in the mall and that was the safe haven. See, those kind of details I appreciate. But I'm admitting it is not the be-all, end-all. It was just, I probably will never watch it again, but it was comfort food.
It was comfort for you.
Yes.
For me, I wasn't overly impressed.
All right, so now we move on to Moments of Silence. Here on the weekend edition, I have one. The classic song. Remember the classic Hippy Dippy song?
Yes.
Get Together. Smile on your brother. Everybody get together. Try to love one another right. Remember that one?
Yep.
Yep. That was by the Youngbloods. The leader of the Youngbloods, Jesse Colin Young, unfortunately passed away here this past week. So, thoughts and prayers always go out to anybody who we lose from the world of classic rock.
Yep, and we have stand-up comedian Lenny Schultz. Appeared a lot in the late 60s, early 70s was a regular recurring on Laugh-In, was on Carson many times. The Bionic Chicken was his big character breakout. He did... I remember...
That sounds vaguely familiar, but otherwise, I have no idea.
I saw it and was reading things. I'm like, yeah, I remember seeing stuff with him. He was one of the freak out guys, the physical comedy, one of the first ones to really be pulling that off.
Yeah. All right, so you know what time it is now, Dave.
Time to pivot. Who will be the Red Foreman dumbass of the week out of all these contestants?
All right. Four contestants this week. Let's start off with something we alluded to earlier. The cheapness of Warner Brothers and how they
suck.
Well, and we talked about Coyote versus Acme and how they abandoned that movie even though it was completed and done and took it as a tax write-off.
Just like they did with Batgirl.
Well, here's another example of how they are just out of touch with what the people really want. Because, of course, they run Max. They have decided to pull all of the original Looney Tune cartoons off of Max.
What the hell?
Every Looney Tune from 1930 to 1969 gone.
Why? What is their brilliant reasoning?
They're keeping all the newer.
Nobody wants the newer ones.
I know. We want the old stuff.
Unless it's going to be the Tiny Toon Adventures.
This has got to have something to do again with the tax write-off thing somehow. I don't know. But why would you take... This is what we always talk about. The advertisers, the companies, the creative content people always say, we don't care about the people over 50. Yet all the commercials still have classic rock from the 70s and the 80s. Why would you take away the Looney Tunes, Little Rascals, the Three Stooges? This is the stuff we all love.
When my kids saw this stuff, they fell in love with it.
Because
it's great.
Are there even cartoons on Saturday mornings anymore?
No.
That's a travesty.
It's all news and documentary.
I would always get the TV guide from the store right before the Saturday when all the new cartoons started, and I would highlight from 7 in the morning until noon what I was going to watch every half an hour. I would jump from this channel to this channel, back to this channel, to this channel.
What was on when and where. And
it was fun, goddammit.
My God, the wacky races.
And you had your bowl of cereal, and you would sit there with your PJs on, and you're watching that shit for 5 hours.
Yep, you had the cereal going, and then for the later bits, I always had the payday that Dad got me because he bowled on Friday nights. And there it was waiting for me on the counter after breakfast, after 10:30, the payday was on the board.
That's awesome. That's absolutely awesome. And these kids don't understand that experience.
No, it's gone. It's sad.
Unbelievably sad. And even coming home after school.
Oh my God.
And watching the cartoons.
Yep.
When you got old enough, then it was baseball. But before that, you'd come home and you watch Spider-Man. Watch the Marvel superheroes. Or you watch the reruns of Gilligan's Island, the Brady Bunch.
Yeah. Speed Racer, 4 o'clock.
Terrible.
Terrible.
I never, ever want to hear anybody say that the 70s and the 80s sucked.
They were the best.
Greatest time to grow up ever. Ever.
Absolutely phenomenal.
Shame on Max for pulling all those old Looney Tunes. Those shorts, the comedic shorts. Bugs Bunny, all that good stuff.
So much fun.
Marvin the Martian. Okay. So we still haven't gotten, even though it was promised, we were promised, we still haven't gotten the full Epstein disclosure.
Yeah. When?
But we know that one of the people involved would be one Prince Andrew. Well, story came out this week. No, we're not going to delve into the Epstein stuff. But the story did come out this week that Prince Andrew has a little bit of an idiosyncrasy. And no, again, not involving the Epstein stuff. But this will help explain why maybe he's...
persona non grata?
Yeah. And why he could end up very well being the biggest deviant of all when it comes to that Epstein stuff. Somebody has come out and said in a, one of these, disclosure, tell-all books. There you go. A tell-all book. That Prince Andrew has to have, before he goes to bed, his 30 teddy bears.
Oh, yeah. I've heard about
placed
this.
in a perfect pyramid shape on his bed before he lays down to slumber every night.
I've heard about that. What a wacko.
Yeah, let's get the rubber room ready for him, shall we? Dumbass. All right, you know how much I hate the legal system in this country. I hate it, I hate it, I hate it. We let criminals walk, but then when it comes to civil damages,
They've gone off the rails.
these stupid jurors who just decide, because it doesn't affect me, I'll just award whatever amount of money I should, because it's just wrong what happened. It's just wrong. Well, here we go, Dave.
McDonald's 2.0?
Yes, it actually does involve hot coffee again.
God help us.
An L.A. County jury, yes,
No.
California, awarded $50 million in damages to a Starbucks drive-through customer because, yes, they spilled hot coffee in their lap. Now, the dude claims...
Personal fucking responsibility.
The dude claims he had to have skin grafts because of extreme genital burns. But still, I think I would pour hot coffee in my lap if you told me you're going to get 50 million bucks. I would say, skin graft? Thank you. Can I have another? $50 million. Thank
How
you.
fucking stupid are these people that they...
Now, I personally could care one way or the other about Starbucks. But just the abject stupidity of these people who don't think... They think the money's going to get pulled out of the
Where's
sky.
it going to come from? Seriously.
Insurance rates go up.
Yeah. Way to go, you fucking morons.
And for those people who actually drink Starbucks, their prices go up. And then finally, now wait, I talked about the White Lotus. Now last week's episode, not the one we just discussed, going back to episode 4. So I mentioned this past week, we had a couple of scandalous things happen.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't mention the week before, we had some full frontal male nudity, let's put it that way, involving Jason Isaacs, an older actor. Some people know him. I recognize him, but otherwise I couldn't really tell you what he's been in.
Yeah.
But yeah, he has a moment where his robe flops open and you see the goods. But this is the problem. You and I were just talking about the innocence of watching Saturday morning cartoons.
Right.
And now you wake up in the morning for CBS mornings, and the great and glorious Gayle King, of course, who wouldn't be anything anywhere if it wasn't for the fact she was carpet munching Oprah Winfrey. Oh, did I say that out loud? Oh, I'm so sorry. I mean, the responsible, talented journalist Gayle King has Jason Isaacs on CBS mornings again in the morning
when the kids are supposed to be watching cartoons,
asking Jason Isaacs if his scene in The White Lotus involved him having a prosthetic penis. This is the world we live in now. So the kids wake up in the morning, Mom, can I have waffles? And by the way, what's a prosthetic penis? And the big news media, CBS, NBC, Fox, ABC, they want us to all think they're the bee's knees, they're the best. When they put this shit on, where our kids can see it in the morning.
Dumb beyond belief.
All right, Dave, so your 4 contestants for the Red Forum and Pop Culture Dumbass of the Week. Prince Andrew and his 30 teddy bears. Max pulling the original Looney Tunes. The LA County jury awarding $50 million for hot coffee in the lap. Or CBS Mornings and the great Gayle King for asking Jason Isaacs in front of all of the nation's children about the possibility of a prosthetic penis.
I have to tie 2 in together. Because you wouldn't have one if you didn't have something similar from the other. Pulling cartoons from Saturday morning and Max leads to this bullshit news crap all the damn time. They go hand in hand.
Yeah, I gotta go with you on that. I think that's pretty good. A pretty good line of logic. I can't argue that, yeah.
And I go back to damn Ted Turner to hell for the 24-hour news cycle.
And it's not even news.
No, it's all op-ed bullshit. Every talking head had, oh, I think this is going to be, I think that, oh, I got to get this person's opinion. They're not even fucking close to what's actually happening.
Yep, I'm going to go with you on that. Yep, I think that's a very, very insightful two-pronged dumbass.
Ugh.
Taking away our Looney Tunes from us, from our kids, and then giving us prosthetic penis talk on the morning shows. So there you go, kids. Dave and Kev hath spoken.
So it is.
And that'll wrap up the weekend edition. Stay tuned for next week's, 7 days from now, next week's irreverent, politically incorrect pop culture commentary where we will review Kraven the Hunter.
Yes.
We're bringing back cassette classics with a 1984 album from Y&T. Then, of course, we'll also have our updates on Reacher and The White Lotus and Tracker and Dark Winds and all that good fun stuff. More dumbasses. Hopefully no moments of silence, but you never know. Death is inevitable. What are we going to do?
Yep.
We will acknowledge, we will honor those if they pass, when they pass. And isn't it amazing? Dave is not reviewing books. This is the man that reads 427 books a year normally. And go ahead and say it. I've been playing video games.
Yes, I have been. It happens once in a while, kids. I get sucked into a good story of a video game.
Yeah, I luckily I have been able to restrain myself. But how pathetic am I that I spent 3 hours this weekend just making trades on Madden?
And you haven't actually played a game yet.
No, I need that roster to be perfect. I still have a couple more guys I've got to swap out. I just got to find a sucker there in the computer world. Find some sucker-ass computer owner of the Bengals or the Browns or whoever to trade with me so I can have my perfect team and then I can play.
Well, there you go.
So I am not completely guiltless in this whole video game debacle.
You have to expand your horizons, kids.
Yeah, I don't know how we're doing that with video games, but until next week, don't forget Sports Edition every Thursday morning.
Otherwise, we'll talk to you right back here this time next week.
That's your Uncle Dave.
That's your Uncle Kev.
Say goodnight to the kids, Dave.
Good night to the kids, Dave.